story will take place to a land back in time of Hungary. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom of bears. They were known as Hungry Bears. However, one day, the red bears from a foreign land came in to Hungry Bear, and they took all of their food. These bears did more than just take their food. The Hungry Bears had always worshipped the golden honey. The foreign bears replaced their honey with an image of Stalin Bear. Then the bears had to worship that Stalin Bear instead of their golden honey, and they became very unhappy in doing so. The little bears were even forbidden to watch their favorite little TV show of Winnie the Pooh, and instead they had to watch Stalin Bear. The poor bears were also forced to give up all their farms to the collective. Instead of farming, they now had to focus on industrialization for Stalin Bear's empire. There was a leader called Bear Nagy who tried to share territory for all bears and give them a good standard of living. However, he was soon replaced by the evil bear Raskosi. Raskosi was so evil that he pushed bears out of the country who didn't follow him or Stalin Bear. Over time, the bears got more and more hungry for independence. So to explain in historical context, the Hungarian Communist Party had overtaken Hungary in 1948, and essentially all non-communist parties were eliminated, and the leader they had imposed instead of Imre Nagy was Mátyás Rákosi, and he was a puppet leader who did anything the Soviets said, and a lot of Hungarians accuse him of many crimes. And when he took over Hungary, he helped to eliminate religion, forced industrialization and collectivization, and the USSR was able to maintain control by ruling with fear, as this time period coincided with Stalin's Great Terror. So people were very afraid of the Moscow show trials if they did not obey and follow this Soviet rule. Eventually, all the hungry student bears had enough. They were inspired by the country of Polar Bear to take action like they had against the country of red bears. They even had support from the United States of America from Radio Free Bear-Up to revolt. Since Stalin Bear was no longer around, they thought Khrushchev Bear was going to give them more independence. They decided to fight back. They created Give Back the Honey and Give Back Our Bear posters. But when nothing happened, they got violent with rock, paper, and scissors. Khrushchev Bear, the replacement to Stalin, agreed to meet with Hungry Bears, but they wanted too many things he didn't agree with. They wanted multiple bears to rule their country and wanted to leave the War Bear Pact, which protected Khrushchev Bear. Khrushchev Bear didn't like any of this, so he sent his best rock, paper, and scissors. Sadly, the Hungry Bears lost because they didn't get any physical support from America or other near countries. Bear Nagy and all other bears who participated in the revolution had to leave now. To recap on the Hungarian Revolution, which you saw in Rock, Paper, Scissors. Well, in real historical terms, this was started as some protests in Hungary against the current government when Stalin had died and Khrushchev came into power and gave his secret speech. The Hungarians saw that there was hope. a student group called the United Organization of Hungarian University and College Students, they protested and they asked for 16 demands. They wanted Imre Nagy returned, better wages, re-examination of the economy, less censorship, and they wanted multiple parties in their government. So Imre Nagy, he had returned for a week and multiple parties were formed with a coalition government. However, his demands went too far when he asked to leave the Warsaw Pact. The USSR saw this as too demanding, and as a result, he was executed, and the revolution was crushed November 4th when Soviet troops came in. There were 1,500 deaths, and 200,000 fled to West Berlin. This was also part of the brain drain, as all the smartest minds had begun to left Hungary. Khrushchev Bear wanted to take some control back, so he introduced János K. Bear, giving the Hungry Bears a lot of freedom. Eventually, the Hungry Bears were even able to get their golden honey back. Brezhnev Bear had the Brezhnev Doctrine that forced the Hungry Bears to be a part of Brezhnev Bear rule that followed Khrushchev Bear. When Gorbachev Bear stopped fighting back with rock, paper, scissors violence, Stalin Bear's country collapsed. The Hungry Bears, hungry for independence, could be satisfied. So to recap what the Bears are demonstrating. So the collapse of the USSR ultimately happened due to economic pressure. The USSR started to take away the very freedoms it gave in the new economic mechanism. And as a result, the Hungarian economy completely fell apart, which ended up backfiring on the USSR. Wages decreased, there was high inflation, and all the blame went on the USSR. So eventually the USSR had to admit to their faults of completely destroying the Hungarian economy, and they eventually collapsed. Additionally, Gorbachev was in power during the collapse, and he did not use any military to fight back. This allowed for all Soviet satellite states to easily gain their independence. Eventually, when the USSR left, there was no government-regulated economy, and a national security office was created to protect Hungarian borders.